Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the story of a game that became a massive cultural phenomenon in India, only to be suddenly banned right at the peak of its power.
So how did this even happen? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the official story, get to the real reasons hiding just beneath the surface, and explore what the game's dramatic comeback tells us about the brand new, high-stakes rules of the internet. You see, before the ban, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or as everyone called it, PUBG, wasn't just another game in India. It was a household name. Seriously, it completely changed the country's relationship with gaming and dragged it into the mainstream like nothing before. It was really the perfect storm, you know? The game was brilliantly designed to run on affordable smartphones, which was huge. It was free to download, and it showed up right as cheap, high-speed data became available to millions, thanks to Geo. But the secret sauce, the thing that made it unstoppable, was the social element. Being able to squad up and talk with your friends over voice chat, that was a total game changer. And this wasn't just a game, it was a genuine cultural force. I mean, it had its own language. You'd hear people shouting "winner, winner, chicken dinner" in the streets. It even created entirely new careers, basically launching a whole generation of streamers and esports athletes into the spotlight. And then, at the absolute height of its popularity, right in the middle of the 2020 lockdowns, when millions were at home playing, the Indian government made a sudden, shocking announcement. It sent waves through the entire country. Just like that, it was gone. India, one of the biggest gaming markets in the world, was cut off from its favorite game literally overnight. It left a massive community of players just totally confused, asking one simple question: why? So let's look at the official explanation. What's interesting is the government didn't point to things like gaming addiction or violence, which had been talked about for years. No, their reasoning was rooted in something much, much more serious: national security. The ban came down under something called Section 69A of the IT Act. The government's official statement claimed the app was a threat to India's sovereignty and, the privacy of its citizens because of how and where it was handling all of our user data. But that official reason? Well, it was only part of the story. To really understand what was driving this ban, we need to look beyond just data privacy and dive into the incredibly tense political climate of 2020. And this slide really lays it out perfectly. You've got two narratives playing out. On the surface, it was a technical issue, right? Data security. But underneath all that, the ban was actually a powerful move in a much larger and mostly unstated geopolitical conflict. When you look at the timeline, the connection becomes impossible to ignore. This so-called digital crackdown that banned PUBG Mobile and over 100 other apps, it came just a few months after a really serious and violent military clash at the border. This wasn't a coincidence. It was retaliation. So here's the crucial detail, the real key to all of this. The company that actually created the game, Krafton, is South Korean, and that's exactly why the PC version was never banned. But the publisher and distributor of the super popular mobile version, the one everyone was playing, that was Tencent, a massive Chinese tech giant. That direct link to China is what put the mobile game right in the government's crosshairs. Now, of course, these geopolitical tensions didn't just happen in a vacuum. Issues like gaming addiction had been bubbling up for years, right? You had local curfews and parents worried, stuff that was already making headlines. So while these things weren't the main reason for the national ban, they created this convenient backdrop of public debate that made the government's decision a whole lot easier to justify. But come on, with such a massive and dedicated market at stake, you knew the story wasn't going to end there. The developer, Krafton, immediately started planning a strategic comeback, one that addressed India's concerns head-on. So what Krafton did was basically relaunch the entire game under a new name, Battlegrounds Mobile India. They cut all ties with the Chinese publisher, they promised to store all Indian user data on servers physically located inside India, and they even made little cosmetic changes like green blood to calm people down about the violence. It was a masterclass in corporate diplomacy, really. Okay, so when we put all these pieces together, what's the simple truth? What's the real takeaway from this entire saga? The simple truth is this: India didn't ban PUBG Mobile because it was violent or because it was addictive. It was banned because it was tied to Chinese tech infrastructure at a moment of intense political conflict. The game was basically a casualty in a much bigger battle, a battle over data, over influence, and over a concept that's reshaping our internet: digital sovereignty. And that leaves us with a pretty critical question for the future, doesn't it? The story of PUBG in India isn't just about one game.
It's really a preview of a world where the apps on our phones are no longer just for fun. They're pawns on a global political chessboard. So the real question is, what's the next app that's going to get caught in a crossfire?